Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Woolwine. Today, we are welcomed with Rhino. How we doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Blessed, excited to have you on.
Amen.
Told you off air, this is a big deal to me, but I'm excited to get you on here and talk about your career, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's been a fun career, fun career. So, and a lot of wrestling fans have enjoyed my career up to this point. So, and hopefully they continue to enjoy it.
Definitely, definitely, and I'm sure they will. You are one of the nicest human beings on the planet, and it's
Well,
a blessing to
don't
have
kill,
you anywhere.
yeah, don't kill my rep there, Justin.
My okay, nicest
Yeah,
individuals outside of
nice,
the square
but
circle.
mean sometimes. Yeah, be careful how you approach them. You know,
Don't get in the ring
Appro-
with him or
right,
around
right,
a ring with him.
right.
um, but before we get into your career,
Mhm.
you have quite the big thing going for you in Monroe, Michigan right now.
Oh yeah, yeah,
IWR
yeah.
is extremely exciting. I actually made my first, went there for the first time at your last show, and it reminded me a lot of the ECW crowd, the ECW arena. How did that
Yeah.
come to fruition? How did IWR start?
Well, I started running some shows because I was working the independent scene and I was with TNA for a while. And I was like, you know what, I want to do is, an independent show of my own. So I did a charity. It started off just doing a couple charity shows for the church that I belong to, Catholic Church, and maybe one or two a year. And then I did that for a couple years. Maybe I did three or four shows, and then I didn't do some. Like for 3 years, I didn't do any shows, and you're just busy, and and I didn't have time to promote it and stuff like that. So they were successful, raised money, good cause and all that. And then I was thinking of the name IWR, Insane Wrestling Revolution, and then I used that for a couple shows, and I started running, to try to make a profit, and I'd pay the boys and all that. Um, and I'd always run Thursdays. I thought Thursdays were good. Plus, I didn't want to, not be able to, I'm always busy on the independent scene, so I didn't want to take up a Saturday, a payday, to work for free. So so Thursdays were great. Thursdays are a little more difficult. We make it look easy, and then when I went back to WWE, I couldn't do any more shows. They allowed me to do charity shows, but the schedule with that, and then it was just hard to really do them. But I did a few, but I couldn't wrestle on them. I could appear at them, but which were fun. And then um, when I ended up finishing up with WWE the second time in 2019, I bought a marina in Monroe, Michigan, and everywhere I went, people were like, "Rhino, Rhino," and I'm like, this is a wrestling town." So I talked to my buddy Gary that runs the Monroe Comic Con, and he said, "Yeah," and I said, "Listen, if it fails, I'll take the financial loss, so sell it to your wife that way." And she was okay with it. So, and she's been we call her the boss. So we she enjoys it. They're wrestling fans. I'm a wrestling fan. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't a wrestling fan. And so it's one of those things. It's kind of like an ECW feel, we want to try to capture, but also modern day, where you can bring your kids to and stuff like that. And you can tote the line, and you might have to explain a couple things to the kids in on the way home, but nothing too serious. But yeah, it just in every 6 weeks we started running. During the pandemic, it was a little, we ran one or two shows just to remind people, but we're official business and LLC, and we split it 51% and 50. That's the way it is, easy to work out and do our taxes and everything. So, but it's one of those things. And now we're on Triller, um, and we've got a great response. So the crowds are great. Everything's been going real fun and smooth. Great group of guys. So, and
Definitely.
girls.
I noticed like a lot of them I've seen here on like the Chicago indie scene, like
Oh
Russ
yeah,
Hamilton, uh, Johnny Bravo,
yeah.
just to name a couple. So like, do you just allow talent from anywhere, any walks of life, or is there a
You know what?
specific type you're looking for?
You know, that's actually a really good question. It's hard to because our shows are only an hour and a half because we got a
Okay.
9 o'clock curfew on the building and we start at 7:30. We do a little VIP. Originally, we did it just to throw a couple matches in there. I've actually wrestled on the VIP matches before, but we started it to try to, you know, give an incentive to buy the first row and second row, and then they started selling out immediately the night tickets went on sale. And then we added the third row, which within the week, the third row usually goes out. So we have some VIP matches before the show starts, and then we let in general admission. But um, the thing is you can only fit so many wrestlers on there, and a lot of people will come to help out, and then that puts them in front of your mind. A lot of people will send stuff, and it's hard to really go through that stuff. But yeah, it's just good talent, and I try to book them, the right way. So we get Skull and Bones is a wrestling school in Toledo, Ohio. A lot of their students help pass out flyers. I mean, I do it myself. I'm not too good to do any job. So I'm not cleaning the toilets. I'll hire and pay someone to do that. But only at the marinas I'll do that. I'll clean the bathrooms because I take pride in in keeping a clean facility. But yeah, it's one of those things, and I help out the younger talent. So, and I always tell them this is a preparation for WWE, AEW, TNA, NWA, places like that. So you're going to learn, show up on time, communicate, see what you're doing and all that stuff, and just go out there and do a great job. So
In May, I believe it's May 2nd and 3rd.
yeah,
Correct me if
yeah.
I'm wrong. You have WrestleFest coming up. Tell us a little bit about what it's like at WrestleFest and maybe what we can expect come May.
Well, it's actually I've been part of a few wrestling conventions. Excuse me. Um, and I think they're just so cool. Just the fans, the experience. You got from Squared Circle to WrestleCade. I mean, and WrestleCon. You've got all these events like that are very special, and I don't do a lot of them. I've done more this time around than ever, but usually I'm booked at a wrestling show, and it's just one of those things where I always wanted to do it for about the last 10 years. So Gary with his convention background, and so we kind of found a cool building. It's at the new Civic Center and or Community Center in Frenchtown, which is a suburb of Monroe. So, and it's part of Monroe County. Brand new, beautiful building. So we're gonna have wrestling matches every hour, and then that night we'll have a big wrestling show. So, but there's vendors, and I think we have some vendor tables open, so you can look it up IWR on Facebook and stuff, and Gary will get a hold of all that. So I'm pretty sure. So I don't know, but we'll have a ton of people signing. You could just go on Facebook, IWR Insane Wrestling Revolution, Insane Wrestling Revolution, uh, WrestleFest. So yeah.
And it's a 2 day night event. So if you miss
Yeah.
one day, you can go see the next, right?
Yeah, well, technically it's a day and a half because Friday it starts at I think 5 to 9.
Okay.
So and then Saturday is from 10 to 6, and then the show 7 to 9. So
Okay.
we also have
Do,
a curfew on that, and it'll be on Triller. If you can't make it out there, you can watch it on Triller. And then we have something that we did in Germany, and it was called Kindercatch. Kids couldn't go to the wrestling show until they're 14. It was by law. So you would demonstrate moves. So we're going to have a couple wrestlers demonstrate some moves. That'll be Saturday. We're going to have a panel. Kurt Angle's going to be there. Rob Van Dam, myself, Boogeyman, Heath Slater, PCO, Victoria, Mackenzie. A lot of men and women that are going to be there signing. So, and then the main event's going to be Tom Latimer, the NWA champion, versus Silas Young, which is a native of the Chicago area,
Yes,
and
sir.
uh, and he's there. He's Silas is the IWR heavyweight champion, a title Thomas Latimer once held. So.
Okay. Is it title for title or is it just for one of them?
Well, that's what we're waiting to hear from NWA officials.
Okay.
But Heath Slater and I will be wrestling the NWA champions, tag team champions, and that's for the NWA tag titles.
Okay.
So,
Are
so history could be made. We've been the TNA champs. We were the first ever SmackDown Live tag team champs, and now I'm feeling good on the NWA tag team titles.
how did your like team with Heath come to fruition? I know like on air there was will Heath get, hired onto SmackDown, but like
Yeah.
is there a story behind you and Heath getting
No,
together? They just put you guys
just
together and run with it.
yeah, I gored him, and next thing you know, I don't know who said, "Hey, why don't Heath and we're so opposites, you know," and I think and we weren't. I don't even think we were supposed to go maybe a round or two. It was just throw these two guys in there, and the fans just loved us. Heath is what you see is what you get, you know, and who you know. I mean, who doesn't love Heath? So so it just worked. Next thing you know, we're the tag champs. So and the story, he was just, he was the one that actually got the pin and came through at the end. And, it was yeah, it was a lot of yeah, he became a best friend. Yeah. More than a best friend, like family.
Did you guys see it that you guys would be working together? I mean, all the way up to now? Did you
No.
think that was gonna happen? No.
I just thought, it's funny because I never traveled with them. Then they started putting us together, and he just jumped in my car. I would travel. I don't even think he asked, to be honest with you. And I'm not opposed to traveling with people. I actually like traveling with people, especially if you get along with them. And then next thing you know, we started rooming together, and separate beds, obviously, because I need a lot of room. No, but it's funny because I just learned this because who would he room with? He would travel and room with someone else. Uh, I was just talking, we were talking about Heath, and he would always get it was like we were meant to be a tag team. He would always take the bed closest to the bathroom, and then I'd always take the bed by the window, right? But I thought it just happened that way. But I'd always prefer the window. And anyways, it was funny because we'd just be shooting the shit, just walking in the room, and we just start unpacking our stuff where we normally do, and we're just on such a good regimen, as far as getting up, eating, working out, traveling, rooming together and all that. Yeah. So yeah, it just happened, and yeah, he just jumped in the car, and we traveled ever since, so whenever we're on the same shows together.
Okay. The other night you arrived at NWA. It
Yeah.
looks like you are looking to challenge Tom Latimer for that NWA championship. Is
Yep.
Rhino looking to be a two-time NWA champion?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's been 20 years in October, and I think the NWA title, it just keeps on getting more prestigious, and it's reclaiming that glory it once had. Not that saying taking anything away from it or any of the people that have held it, but I think the state the company's in too, so and that's always got to be brought to the attention, so it's the company is in a great spot. It's doing better, and it's gaining traction, doing better as far as gaining traction, and hopefully I can be part of that.
Okay. Are you? I don't know if it's been announced yet, but is it looking like you guys are going to face each other at the
We
ECW
will.
arena? Yeah.
Um, well, we'll face each other someplace, but
Okay.
that just makes sense, the ECW arena, So um, I'll never forget my first match there and being in the ring. If I Every time I go there, I just, you feel at home. I
Hmm.
don't know if you ever had a place where you really felt at home, and I'm glad, the owner, Roger bought it, fixed it up because if the building would have went in decay, it just would have been eventually torn down or used as storage or something. But it's a great event center. It's a great place for concerts. The Philly fans turn out for sporting events, and the Philly fans, New York fans. I'll probably get heat from the Philly fans for saying that, but the wrestling fans all over are great. Chicago, they're awesome. Detroit, yeah, they're just Cleveland's great. I mean, there's so many, and even the smaller towns are really really good too. So, but yeah, the Philly fans, man. I didn't wrestle. I wrestled for ECW for um several months, and I was at the ECW arena like three times before Paul even let me wrestle because he said if these fans chew you up and spit you out, there's nothing I can do for you, So he waited at the right moment, and I got in there with Christopher Daniels. So we had a great match.
Has there ever been an arena like for you that's quite like the ECW arena?
Um, yes and no,
Okay.
because you'll get these venues. I was just wrestling for HOG and um out in Jamaica, New Jersey, and that building is awesome. I wrestled there before for a different promotion, but that it was electrifying. And yeah, I'm just trying to think. There's been so many cool buildings. The one in what is it called? The Odi? No, is it the Odeum or whatever in Chicago? Odi
Uh,
Arena
I
or
I know the Rosemont Horizons up here. That
yeah.
one's really good.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. But the one we worked for in ECW, it
Okay.
was out that way. It was in Villa Park. Yeah, way
Okay.
before your time. Look it up.
A little bit.
That was a cool venue too. Insane. We did a pay-per-view there and a TV. But yeah, that was a great, great venue. And TNA actually ran there, and I did a independent show there. So yeah, it was a great venue. I really enjoyed that place. So ECW ran there a few times, did a pay-per-view. That was actually our best house. So was there.
That's fantastic. When did you find wrestling and what made you fall in love with it?
When I was a kid, I found wrestling just I think a friend or something or my older brother introduced it to me and I just fell in love with it. It was the 80s, it was the rock and wrestling, it was everything. Hulk Hogan, good versus evil. Yeah. And I just knew if I grew up and if I could do that, that'd be great. And I wrestled in school, played football, all that stuff, and found a school right after and I just said, I'll give it 5 years, see where I'm at. And in 5 years, I was in ECW. So
That's incredible. I read it online. You were trained with or by Scott Demore, correct?
yeah, Scott
Yeah.
Demore. Well, Scott was only a couple years in. It was his
Yeah.
building, his ring. Um, he was very talented too. So he would come in, and it was Mickey Doyle, Irish Mickey Doyle,
Okay.
and he was a seasoned veteran at that time. I think 25 years. And Scott, just because he was with football and all that stuff, and in college, so he had the coaching background too, just by playing the sport or playing sports. And and Denny Cass would come in, help out Mickey Doyle, Denny Cass, and Scott Demore. So I consider all three of them my trainers. So,
Okay. Um, you mentioned it wasn't long before you got into ECW, about 5 years roughly. You did matches for WCW beforehand and WWF. Was there ever any thoughts or opportunities to sign with them, or was ECW maybe the place you wanted to be?
I never thought about going to ECW. I actually said to
Oh,
myself, I'll never go there because I thought ways and I didn't think they wrestled. I just thought it was just swinging chairs, everybody's bleeding all over the place, and that was it. And I found out through Ulf Herman because I'd go over and wrestle in Germany and do the tournaments, and you'd stay over there for months and months and months on end. And from 97, 98, he went over there and he told me, he said, ECW, no, it's not like that. You know, you might have a hardcore match here or there, but and he started explaining a little bit more to me, and then I started watching. I'm like, oh yeah, I watched ECW because we'd get it early on, like when Mikey Whipwreck would get beat up, and then they'd eventually reverse a decision. And I seen it as an independent show when I was getting ready to go to work at like 3 a.m. So, um, anyways, long story short, um, with WWE, no, I was just down there doing jobs. But Jimmy
okay.
Hart pulled me aside and he said, "You got to look this and that." I'm 19, and he pulled me in the office, and Terry Taylor and Kevin Sullivan and Jody Hamilton were in there, and he's like, and I had baby oil all over the place, and just like bathed in it, and he goes, he's got to look, and I was going to do one of the matches, and Kevin Sullivan goes, "Yeah, if we're doing a baby oil commercial or something like that." And it was like, wah, wah, wah. But he didn't say it in a mean way. And I told him that years later. And I told him before, I go, I'm not mad, or I'm not like, oh, I proved you wrong or anything. I go, I found it funny after, because Jimmy Hart's like, oh, you got to look at everything. And I did admit to him I did have a lot of baby oil on. So.
Do you have a favorite moment or match from your ECW run?
Um, Sabu, Sandman, there's just so many. I was very blessed to have a lot of good matches with Rob and
Yeah.
Sabu, and yeah, I just learned so much from Sabu about the business, and how to really, pick your spots and stuff, and yeah.
It's kind of interesting to think about it because you was probably only in ECW for the last year and a half, and the amount
Two and
of
a half years, yeah,
2.5
yeah, yeah,
in that time frame, the amount of moments you were able to make, whether you're power
yeah.
driving Sandman's wife or just through a table or any of those things is kind of crazy. And then to be the last ECW world champion and television champion, what
Yeah.
did that mean to you?
I didn't think the company was gonna, stop, but I wish it would have went on
Mhm.
under Paul Heyman. For a lot longer, for a lot of men and women to experience a lot of things that we all experience. So, but it is what it is. I'm glad the fans just really love it, and can go back and watch all those great moments on YouTube or the network and stuff like that. So,
Did you expect like WWE to kind of revive it? I mean, even for one night at one night stand?
no, but I was happy, you
Yeah.
know. So a lot of guys and girls got a paycheck, and got the opportunity to perform. That's what I mean when I say paycheck. Um, so it was, and a lot of the wrestling fans wanted it too.
What was that night like, for you guys in the back, guys and girls in the back? Was it emotional?
The last night, oh, yeah, of down in Pine Bluff, I think it was. Um, but I did, like I said, I'm just like, why are these guys and girls getting all emotional? It's like it's not done. Paul said we're taking a break. I didn't believe. I didn't take everything he said to heart. Um, but I believed in a lot of stuff he was saying, and a lot of stuff came true. So I don't think he was purposely lying. Some things just didn't come through. A lot of times hopes and dreams don't come true. You know, um, so I never thought he was lying to me, or anything like that. Just things just didn't happen. So.
What about for one night stand? Was it
Uh,
was it
yeah, I
emotional
think
then?
no, I the only thing I remember is that as I was wearing a nice suit, and I drove in with my buddy the night before, and right after the show, we drove back to Detroit. Yeah,
Okay.
so it was fun. I really enjoyed the match and everything with Sabu and and Rob being part of it. Yeah, so and the Hammerstein Ballroom, it's really a nice venue. I actually
What
love that venue too.
what went into the decision to go to TNA in 2005?
They just had a lot of interest and it just ended up working out.
Okay.
And it was fun. And I enjoyed myself. And I had actually a lot of really good matches with a lot of guys. And I think it was the right place for where I was at in my life at that time.
In one night, you made a lot of history. You won Monsters Ball, which is probably one of my favorite matches of all time. You won the 10-man gauntlet and beat Jeff Jarrett for the NWA
Yeah.
title.
And got 15 stitches like right in the hairline. So yeah.
Is that a moment, a night that you look back on fondly? And I know like Nash got hurt, so they had to change
Yeah.
things up. What was
Yeah.
that? What was that night like at Bound for Glory?
Well, I when I power drove Jeff uh, Hardy off the second rope, I
Hmm.
bruised my quad, and it was really difficult to walk. And 2 days later, I had to wrestle Jeff in and that was tough. So it really, the second day there was no matches, and then the third day, for TV, and it was difficult because it was that deep bruise because his shoulder went right into my left quad. So. But yeah, it was really, really hard to walk. But you wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, now that I pointed out, you could probably tell. So
No, Rhino, I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I
yeah, we'll have to do
always,
it again.
yeah, I was gonna say I always leave the door open. So if you ever want to
Yeah,
gore your way back through it, I'd love to have
I
you on.
love it. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna say, hey, listen, leave the door open, and if you don't, I'll gore my way through.
I like it. Um, Before we go, do you want to let the fans know where they can keep up with you, maybe on social media and things like that?
Yeah, just Rhino, I've got a Facebook page, and then you can always, find through IWR, just see what we're
Okay.
doing there. In the last 5 years, and I'll end on this, but never let anybody tell you you can't do something because you just with hard work, dedication. I pray, I believe in God. I always have. Um, but find out what works for you, work hard at it, and then everything else will come. Because if I listened to all the naysayers, we wouldn't be talking right now. And along the way, I think I've made, some people happy, and I hope to continue to do that. In the last 5 years of wrestling after WWE, and I didn't resign because I didn't want to collect a paycheck and not be part of something. Not that I wanted to be world champion or anything. If they needed me to step up the plate, I could do it. Um, not saying I'm cutting myself short, which I don't think anybody should, but my thing is sitting at home, I was becoming miserable. So I knew I could go back to TNA, help the younger generation out for a very discounted rate, work on the independent scene, help people out. And then with TNA, the last 5 years I was there, I produced for 3 years, ran my own promotion with my buddy, learning how to book, learning how to stick to a budget, learning from your mistakes, so that's important for me is to share like, these wrestling events, with Insane Wrestling Revolution, mine and my buddy's thing. But go check it out, look at that. And remember, you could do anything you put your mind to. Don't let anybody naysay. So, and you could be the best at it. So, and then when I wrestle for that NWA title, 20 years in the making to recapture that.
It's
So,
about time.
yeah, right, right. Well, George Foreman did it. So, I mean, he was always an idol of mine. So,
And he didn't have a gore.
yeah, but he had a hell of a punch.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Rhino, thank you so much. As far as the podcast goes, I'll leave it at see you soon.
See you soon, brother.